We were just talking about our Walden a little bit. So you might get a question or two about that.
Oh, that's fabulous. I love that property.
Hey, Barney,
Yes, sir.
did you solicit this program?
No, I did not, but I've been working with her to try to make sure that I did everything I could to make her comfortable here.
Well, I've got a question. How did that cove up at Grand Lake get the name of Russell?
Oh,
Do you know?
That, I know.
There's a cove at Grand Lake that has
Yeah.
Russell's name on it.
Yeah, it's Leon Russell Cove. So in 72, when Leon purchased the old church and made it into a recording studio, he also bought his property in Maple Ridge on Woodward Boulevard. And he bought this lakefront property. And he put recording studios in all three. So a few years ago, driven by the owner, the current owner of the property, his name is Dr. Rick Husky. He's a local chiropractor. They got a group together yeah, they met and they decided to, name that area Leon Russell Cove.
Well, it's so almost striking to see how beautiful that place is. There's not a whole lot of development there.
No, it's gorgeous and it has such a neat history. And Leon did the same thing that he did at the church, where he had cabins and properties where people like Bob Dylan or George Harrison could come over and stay, record, play, stay. And it was kind of a neat strategy he deployed.
Well, it's just an anomaly
Mhm.
to see somebody's name in the middle of Grand Lake.
I know. You know what's interesting is after he decided to leave Oklahoma, he only came back for 4 years. He donated that property to Oral Roberts. So a lot of people don't know that, but yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning, Miss Ellie. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Hey,
How
Don,
did we get on if you're not on yet?
pardon? Oh, I don't have, I fixed, oh, I don't know if I fixed it or
There
they
you
changed
are.
the programming, but I don't have to let you in.
Oh, good.
Whoa.
They changed it. I don't know. You never know what Zoom's gonna do, so. Don, did they tell you that you missed out? Your name was drawn for the pot of gold twice, I think, and you weren't here? Don Wasson?
Oh, Don.
I wasn't listening. Oh, I missed the program. I missed $300.
Yeah, that's what happens when you don't show up for Rotary meeting.
Well, honestly, I'm in the middle of some serious rehab right now, and I just didn't make the meeting. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. You missed out.
Is that Jim Connor?
Morning, Jim Connor.
Hey, Steve.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Steve,
All on the draw this morning.
Steve, can you cover for Megan this morning?
Sure.
She's not going to be able to be on the call this morning.
Okay.
Thank you.
I like to scramble for a joke if I have one.
Yeah, I didn't have a joke, so I just.
Barbara, did you get my card slide?
No, I didn't. No, tell me what the number is. Just give me
It's,
the number of the amount.
It's in your email.
Well, can you do you know the number?
Number of what?
uh,
Number of what?
oh, the amount of money?
The amount of money.
Oh, 247.
Thank you. I'll fix the slide right now. Got it. Thank you.
I apologize for that.
2:30 last
we
night.
had a
On my front porch in
reunion.
Texas, stealing internet off of my neighbors.
Hey, Don?
Yeah.
This is Barney. I just want you to know that I didn't win. My name followed yours and I didn't win it either. So you're okay. You still a lot of money in there.
I need to send some more.
Teresa, I don't know if we'll get a chance to talk during the meeting this morning, but I want to tell you how lovely the afternoon tea is at Harweldon.
Oh, great. I'm glad you've had an opportunity to check it out.
Yeah, I went with a couple of girlfriends and it was just lovely. The food was delicious and it was just charming. And of course, the building's beautiful. So
Yeah, well, thank you.
congratulations to saving that and putting it to good use.
Yeah, well, it's such a beautiful English Tudor mansion. And so we wanted something that was English, that would be something a little different and fun for the community. So I'm really glad you enjoyed that.
Absolutely. As well as the Prosecco.
Oh, yeah. And the Pim's Cup. I don't know if you tried the
No,
cocktail.
I didn't try that. I just did the Prosecco.
Yeah, so you can get a regular tea ticket or tea royale, which
Yeah.
includes the alcohol. And it's like, hey, might as well do the royale.
Well, of course, of course.
It's funny, we have a neighbor at Harwelton and she's English. And then our chef that we started with is English. And they were so strict on me. You know, I said, hey, you got to give me grace. I'm an Oklahoma redneck. And so they are very proper on the afternoon tea. And so we've tried to adopt some of their things that they've done with it. So
Well, that just makes it more special. So that's what.
Mhm.
Hey, Teresa, we've got a program scheduled in a couple of months from the publisher of the Tulsa World. Did that article last week give you a big boost? Make you feel really important? That was
Well,
awesome.
That was crazy. They wanted to just do an update and then they've been asking me for a while. And so they came over and we just visited for a little bit. And so I was a little bit shocked to see how big that was. So I was a little embarrassed about it, but
Full
yeah.
page. I mean, it was everywhere.
I know. It was horrifying. But yeah, so I mean, of course, we're a construction site right now, but anytime something like that happens, we get a lot of activity and people come out of the woodwork. And the best part of it is a gentleman reached out. He's 96 years old and he attended church there in the 1930s. And I've been capturing the history of the church even before Leon on video and written account just for archival purposes. And he has a really neat story. So we are interviewing him on video to hear about his experience living in the neighborhood and attending church there. So that was really neat.
Morning, Jeff. Good morning, Jim. Good morning, Tamara.
Good morning. How's everybody?
Good. Hey, Laura. Kit?
Hello.
Are we going to have high tea
I'm
today?
sitting on my
Auburn?
front porch stealing internet off my neighbor.
Morning, Bob.
Jim, we're glad you're here, even if you did have to steal your internet from your neighbor.
Morning, Bill Lawson.
Got his sunrise shirt on.
He had to show everybody.
Huh.
Hey, Tim, VJ.
Good morning.
Jim Connors, are you in McAllen? It looks
Far,
like,
we're in far, and I'm
Okay.
sitting on my front porch.
how far is far from McAllen?
Jackson Street separates them.
Oh, wow. Okay. Be careful down there.
It's quieter
say
here
they're
than it
not
is in
far.
Tulsa.
Jim, do you have any new neighbors that you didn't have when you left?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Barney. I'm not got good connection, I don't think.
I'm just going to ask you if you got any new neighbors that you didn't know when you left.
Yeah, well, yes, we do, but we what's going on in the border doesn't affect our area at all. We're and it really never has.
Okay.
Catholic Charities takes a lot of them in and helps get them moved out of here, and we don't know any more about. I mean, we don't have any more to do with it than you do in Tulsa here. I mean, there's no more activity, no nothing here.
Yeah. I think the impression is that everybody in that general area is affected, but apparently not.
How high is your fence, Jim? Just kidding.
Hey, Linda.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be seen.
How you doing this morning?
Doing well. Just a little bit better every day. Just all I can
Great.
add.
We're thinking
Little
of you.
walker and moving right along.
Good for you.
Thank you. I can feel it.
It's got to be better than it was before.
Oh, absolutely. I know there's an end to this.
Okay, one more minute and we'll start. Get through with my clocks chiming here.
Good morning, everybody.
I'm gonna turn it off until she says go. Oh, you opened it. Okay.
Okay, it did 7. And I struck the bell. So Barney, you are our Rotarian of the day. And would you lead us in the prayer and the pledge, please?
All right. Good morning, everyone. Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings which you bring to our daily lives and the fulfillment you give us in Rotary. Help us to enjoy good health and happiness, to be caring for others, to have confidence in our goals, and to succeed in business and in providing aid to those in need. Please help us also to be moral in our decisions and reconciled with those from whom we are separated. We ask this in your name. Amen. Flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Andy, are you singing? Okay, Megan is not going to be able to be on the call this morning. I believe she had to take her mother to the hospital. So our thoughts are with her and her mom this morning. So Steve has kindly agreed to fill in for Megan. So Steve, I'll let you take over Sergeant at Arms duties.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good
I see
morning.
Stan just stepped in. Good morning, Stan. Do we have any visitors or guest Rotarians from around? I haven't seen any, but I thought I would. I know, Teresa, you're a visitor, but you're our program, so that doesn't count. Any other visitors or guests? Well, I don't see any, so let's move on to birthdays and anniversaries. So time to fess up now if you're a year older or have successfully negotiated another year of marriage or have a Rotary anniversary. We want to know about it. We want to celebrate with you. I don't see any hands there either. This is a very, very quiet day today. All right, then we'll we'll step on and get into something that we always have fun with. At least I hope we always do. And that's Happy Bucks. Who has a Happy Buck that you would like to share with us? All right, Ellie, I see your hand. You're gonna have to unmute, Ellie.
Yeah, I'm a little slow. Well, one of the benefits of COVID is being able to catch up on old magazines. And I am all the way up to January of this year. And I found in the letters to the editor, one by our very own Kit Sprague in the Rotary magazine from January. And it's this one up here. And there you go.
Okay.
And since we have 1.2 million Rotarians around the world, that makes Kit 1 in a million.
There you go. We knew that anyway. Very
Yes.
good. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. All right, Bill Lawson.
Well, good morning, all. I just wanted to say my happy buck is that your Sunrise veterans got together for a late afternoon yesterday and had a beer or two and some burgers. Anyway, we had a wonderful time.
That's good to hear. Glad people are getting together again. Who else?
Steve, I have one. This is Tim.
Hey, Tim, come ahead.
So my happy buck is that my youngest daughter is a junior over at Fayetteville, University of Arkansas. She's in the nursing program. And this past Monday, a couple nights ago, she had a virtual white coat ceremony. So my wife and oldest daughter and I were able to drive over and took her out to dinner after the virtual ceremony. That was a lot of fun.
She officially gets to wear a lab coat now. That's pretty good.
Yeah, she's about to start clinicals.
All right, who else? What other happy bucks do we have? Linda.
I am happy to be on this side of his surgery and on the road to recovery, and I'm ready to go dancing again.
All right. You'll probably
Happy
get
that
someone to take you up on that.
Good. I'm happy that my oldest daughter has come all the way from Atlanta also for 2 weeks here to take care of me. And it's been good to visit with her and have our youngest daughter over with her. A good time, all in all.
Very good. We're glad you're on the mend. And we're glad you had the surgery. Don Watson, I saw
Thank
your
you.
hand.
Guys, this is kind of a sad note, but it's happy too. Last Saturday, the sponsorship for Don Walker's gifts to this district were focused on the PETS meeting that was held for all the incoming officers in Rotary. And it's sad, and it's happy that 200 people got to look at a little bit of the history of this club. And the other thing is that if you don't know, Don Walker's sister passed away a couple of weeks ago. Her name was Fern Mundy.
Well, thanks for the update there. We're really glad to have had, we're very fortunate, lucky to have had Don Watson as one of our club members. We will never be the same because of him or without him. He was just a fabulous, fabulous influence.
And we're happy to have Don Walker as one of our former members.
I agree with that, Bill. Thanks for throwing that in there. Who else? Who else has happy buck? Joy.
Joy.
Good morning. Fred and I are going to go have lunch with our niece who is expecting twins. She's been on bed rest for 15 and a half weeks.
Oh.
It's been a miracle that that she's been able to keep the babies, and they're expecting delivery next week. So we're just excited that we get to take lunch to her and visit with her. And it's if you can imagine, for 4 months laying on your back trying to save 2 children, it's been a long haul.
Wow. Well, hats off to her, and very grateful to hear that good news. Anybody else? A lot of you, Martha, sorry.
Okay, this is a in desperation happy buck because I just need to give some money to Rotary. I have a pampas grass in my backyard that I have been very neglectful of. And so it has gotten really out of hand. If you guys know what pampas grass is, so you know that if you don't take care of it, it can like take over your yard. And I got out there with a special tool that I purchased. And in 2 hours, I had that thing cut down to size. And I felt very accomplished. And no slices, because all those leaves are like little razor blades. And I have long sleeves and long pants and everything. But I came in, my husband, and he went out and he was just so proud of me. So that was my happy buck.
Very good. Very good. Who else? What else? Well, since we don't have a joke this morning, many of you know that I just returned from a camping trip, and I'm still a novice at it, but a true experience. We got to the campground out in western Oklahoma on Wednesday, and it was cold, cool Wednesday night, and the furnace worked fabulously. But then the next night, I woke up at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I could hear the furnace trying to come on, but it could not. So Friday morning, I did everything I could think of to get the furnace to come on and couldn't come up with anything. So I waited for the dealership here in Tulsa to open up, and I called. And the technician got on the phone, and I explained what I had done. He said, well, you've done everything right so far. And then he went on to explain what they had to do to repair the furnace. It's a $5 switch that takes about an hour and a half to get to replace. So a very expensive repair, even though the part is very cheap. He said, there's one other thing, one other option. It's a very technical approach that works sometimes. So if all of these things have failed, bang the hell out of it. So I thought, what? So I took his very technical advice. I took the cushion off of the bench seat that covered the furnace, took the cover off of it, hit the reset switch, and as soon as the blower came on, I started pounding on the thing like there was no end. I'm sure it sounded like small arms fire outside the trailer, but after beating on it for about 20 seconds, I heard the furnace come on. So I had to do that 2 or 3 more times, but by the midday Saturday, we had the thing fixed. And, sometimes these really technical issues can be solved with a very manual process. That's
Steve?
it. That's all for me.
Steve, I thought you said you went camping. Did you also say furnace?
Yeah, well, the camper has a furnace in it.
Is that really camping? Come on.
Heater, yeah.
No, that's not camping.
That's glamping. Okay, glamping.
Glamping, yeah.
You need to be in a
Steve, I can tell you another story. We had our air conditioner service yesterday, and it quit last night. So we had a warm night.
Okay. Thank you, guys. And no one won the $5 Starbucks card last week, but I will give you a hint. If you want to go out and look at the fundraiser, the same error is in this week's fundraiser. So if you spot the error, go into the chat room and let me know what you think it is, and we'll see if you win the $5 Starbucks card. So there's that. This is a video that Tim sent me. Tim Holder is on the board of Lindsay House, and he sent me this yesterday. So I'm going to see if I can get it to play. I'm not sure there's going to be any audio with this, but Tim, if you want to talk maybe during this and explain. I was real impressed with watching the video. It's only a couple minutes, so I'm going to start that now.
This is walking into the apartment that we're furnishing. This is the entryway, the kitchen. And it's almost ready to be occupied.
Into the living room.
In the living room.
In the first of the bedrooms.
So this is a 2-bedroom for a small family.
Back to the living room.
A lot of details. This is the second bathroom or bedroom with the bathroom attached to it.
Very spacious closet. And then the bathroom.
Anyway, that's where our money is going, to help furnish this apartment and provide for a most likely a single mom that's been homeless and probably 2 or 3 kids.
Thank you for sending that. We've not been able to go do the live tour of the apartment, so I'm very impressed. That is a nice setup, and some young family is going to be very, very fortunate to be able to live there. So thank you, Tim, for sending that on. Okay, whoops. The grant management seminar is virtual this year, and I put out the request that we need at least 2 people to go, and I think we have, who else signed up for that? Somebody else signed up for it. We at least have Barney and Gifty signed up for it. Oh, Laura Garrett has signed up for it because as she's going to be an assistant district governor next Rotary year, and she's going to attend that as well. So we will have 3 people who will be schooled in how to do grants and work with the district and get some more money coming our way. So thank you guys for doing that. This is the virtual training assembly for all club leaders. I saw that yesterday. So if you are going to be any one of these particular officers next year, in the next Rotary year, I urge you to sign on. It's just, I think it's not a very long, it's only a 2-hour presentation on April the 10th. And there'll be an intro and then breakouts. So there'll be breakout for each one of these particular sessions. So if you are going to be, youth services or foundation or membership or whatever, please sign on and listen to the presentations. Mike Bibby's going to be on representing Sunrise as a past president and treasurer. So that's what's coming up at the district level. Jinx Food Bank is April 17th, which again is on the 3rd Saturday of the month. Any questions, get a hold of Bill Bowen, but we're not limited to 3 volunteers anymore. So as many people as want to get out there on a Saturday, probably will be a beautiful day. Please help Jinx Food Bank. And this is always nice when you get a thank you from the people to whom we have given money. Joy and the Cause met yesterday and they helped do some Mavis Pearl backpacks. And we got a nice note from them prior to that, thanking us for supporting what they do. And so that's nice to get that notice. And Linda's on today. I'm glad to see her on, and she had successful hip replacement surgery. So pretty soon we'll see her, hopefully, at a live Rotary meeting. Just a reminder, if you've missed a Rotary meeting and you want to hear one or just want to hear it again because it was so good, they are listed under Club Files, new. Just go out to DACDB, click on one, listen to it. It counts as a makeup in case you need a makeup. Okay, now it's time for Pot of Gold. So I think I stopped sharing here, and Ellie is going to draw a ticket from the pot.
Stirring the pot. Again, Bill Lawson.
Hey, hey. Let me see what numbers
There
are
you
available.
go.
Okay, Bill, pick a number.
Pick a number, any number.
23.
Sorry,
23.
23.
Yes, ma'am. I could have gotten a bingo, but I didn't pick 47.
23 coming up. Here's 23. It's the 9 of spades.
Oh, it looks like clubs.
Clubs.
Okay.
Sorry,
I'll play bridge with you any day.
it's still early.
It's early, more coffee,
The
please.
check is not in the mail.
Okay, I'm going to quit showing this chart. We've moved down in the numbers considerably, and But the reason I'm going to quit showing it is because the Tulsa County Health Department has quit updating it. As of March 18th, they're not putting out the numbers anymore for Tulsa County. So maybe they decided they didn't need to do that. I don't know. But the numbers have gone down considerably, as you all are aware well. So you won't be seeing this chart anymore. Okay, next, please. Oops. Jay is going to attend our Rotary meeting on April the 21st, our District Governor, Jay Craig. He has been waiting until we met in person to attend, and he is aware that we will be having both an in-person and Zoom meeting that day, and it'll be at the Marriott as usual. So what I'd like to do is have y'all go to the chat room or send me an email, either one. I need to have a count for the Marriott to let them know how many people might be going through their buffet or the Continental. So it's going to be $15 for breakfast, either whether you do the Continental or do the full buffet. So just send me a chat. It'll just to me, you don't need to send it to the whole club, and do a yes, I'm attending, and yes, I've had my shots, or yes, I'm attending and have not had my shots with a no, or no, I'm not attending. And that will help me. And I'm going to try and keep track of that on my end, so that a few days before, actually before the 14th, when we first are going to be meeting at the Marriott again, I can give some numbers to them. So we'll be sure to have enough food on the buffet line. And I think we'll be able to do that and distance ourselves. So reminder for June 25th, we will install Bill Bowen and his Rotary group. I mean, his officers for the year. I do want to mention VJ made a point that they got the camera, or the Togo shipment out. It's on the water. It's on its way to Togo now, the container from MSNI. And he thanked Jesse Poole and who else was on there? I need to go back to the note. I'll go back and it's in the chat room. I'll post that. And thank you all for going out to help get that ready.
Gary Miller helped.
And Gary Merrill, thank you. Thank you. I can't do this and go to the chat room at the same time. So I think that's all I had. If I find anything else that I missed, I'll announce it at the end of the meeting. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Barney as Rotarian of the Day, and you can tell us something we don't know about you, Barney, and then you can.
I am, believe it or not. Again, as you know, Rotarian of the Day has a lot of flexibility and latitude, so I'm going to use a little. First of all, I want to thank Tamara Miller for proposing me 17 plus years ago as a Rotarian. It helped me to focus my community involvement interests in a more meaningful way. Second, I want to recognize the late, great Don Walker for proposing Ellie as a Rotarian and giving us another way to work together and helping others. The most memorable Rotary moments that I've experienced over my years in Sunrise are a couple of are as follows. During my first year as club president, remember I got to do that twice, in 2008-09, every Sunriser was involved in a Rotary activity in either the club or district level, and some people were in both. In recognition of your accomplishments, Sunrise membership was awarded the Presidential Citation for your hard work and volunteerism that year. Another special experience I had was probably what Barbara was looking for, and that's the fact that Ellie and I went to Sweden a number of years ago. And when we went there, I found a Rotary meeting in the city of Kalmar, which was the hometown of the Tonquist, only then they were called Tornqvists, Tornqvist, which somebody changed when he came off the boat. And they immigrated to America in 1871. When checking into that meeting, as we always do when we go to a Rotary meeting, no matter where it is, I told the Sergeant at Arms about my ancestors being from Kalmar and that I had brought with me my great-grandmother's wedding band because it had been, looking at the inside of it, you could see that it had a mark that indicated it had been made in Kalmar. There was a K in there, and in those days, in the 19th century, that's how they marked the jewelry. So it had been manufactured there more than 100 years prior to that. After I was seated at what their English-speaking table, in other words, they had a table where if people were visiting and spoke only English, they would have one of their members who could translate sit with them and tell them what was going on. And so the club president, after I was seated, the club president introduced me and said, would I please tell the club about my family and about the wedding ring? And then they also had a man who was going to interpret everything I said. It was probably the most special moment I've had in another country in a Rotary setting. It was absolutely terrific. It was very special. I encourage everyone to attend an International Rotary Convention and use the Rotary Club Locator app and attend club meetings wherever you are, whether it's domestically or internationally. It's a great experience, and you would find it very interesting how different clubs are everywhere you go. And now for our guest speaker. Some of us have already had the opportunity to say hi to Teresa, and we certainly welcome her here this morning. As you know from reading her bio, and I know you all do that in reading the fundraiser, Teresa Knox is an extraordinary entrepreneur. Her list of interests, real estate developments, and historic preservation projects is a lengthy one. She is currently involved in several commercial entities, especially community higher ed, which is terrific. And I didn't tell Teresa in our conversations, but our son graduated from the community care school, which I think she helped to found years ago. She's also involved, as you all know, in the Harweldon Mansion and in the church studio. Even though her business life is packed, family life is most important to Teresa. She has 3 children, Ronnie, Liliana, and Annabelle, and her husband, Ivan, who shares her business focus as well. Teresa was born in Tulsa and is a 4th generation Oklahoman, and she earned her MBA from Oral Roberts University. We look forward to Teresa sharing her perspective on Leon Russell's vision and the future of the church studio. Please put your hands together and give a warm Sunrise Rotary welcome to Teresa Knox.
Thank you, Barney. Good morning, everyone. I don't think I've ever been on a Zoom call with this many people, so this is really special, and I love what your group does, especially with the Lindsay House. That was really neat to have a tour of the house, so that's really neat. Congratulations on that. So again, thank you for inviting me to be a part of your group today. And I'm really excited about visiting with you about the church studio. And I thought I'd give you a little bit of history on how I got involved and what we're doing in the future. It's been a 4-year renovation project, and we're scheduled to open in July. So I'm really excited about that. But I thought I'd go back and talk a little bit about Leon Russell. Some of you guys know a little bit about his history. Of course, he's a inductee in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and a multi-Grammy award-winning artist. He's from Lawton, Oklahoma, but in elementary school, his family moved here to Tulsa and grew up here. And of course, he went to California as a teenager to become a session player. But the church studio is just this really old church. It was built in 1915 as Grace Methodist Episcopal Church. And I didn't know a lot about it. And when I researched it prior to purchasing it, there wasn't a lot of information on it. But I love historic renovation. And one of my recent projects a few years back before I purchased the church is a property next to Circle Cinema. And it's not Sweeney's Hardware. It's a little property in between Sweeney's and Circle Cinema. And it had been dilapidated since the 1980s. Well, while I was renovating that project, I found myself driving near 3rd and Trenton. I'm a Leon Russell fan. I started collecting Leon Russell memorabilia at the age of 8 years old. And my first item to collect in Leon Russell related was a 7-Eleven Slurpee cup. And in the mid 70s, they identified 50 rock and rollers and they put them on these Slurpee cups. So that was my first item in my collection. Currently, I have over 5,000 pieces. So kind of proud of that, but I'm a little horrified at the same time. Especially I just moved this past week. I'm actually in a rent house until my new house is finished. I'm downsizing, and I saw the scope of my my habit of collecting everything from Leon Russell to Frankoma pottery. It's bad. But anyway, when I was younger, I worked at a club called the Sunset Grill on Brookside, if you guys remember that. So I've always been enamored by the music industry. I grew up from a very poor family. We didn't always have television, but we always had a radio. And I was so proud of all the artists that came from Oklahoma, just everything about our history. And of course, we have Leon Russell, we have David Gates of Bread, we, of course, J.J. Kelly, Leon Russell, the list goes on and on. And so when I was renovating this property, I found myself driving around the 3rd and Trenton area, and I could not believe the shape that the church was in. It was boarded up and a lot of trash. And so I would stop and park, and I would pick up the trash. And I used to go by there when I was younger thinking I was going to see Leon or Eric Clapton or George Harrison or Tom Petty. And so I went on the county assessor's records to search the property. I found the owner and I sent him a letter, and I said, I'm a Leon Russell fan and I'm really interested in purchasing your property. And to my surprise, I put my phone number in there. He called me and he said, I'd be interested in meeting with you. And so there's a little bar down the street from the church in East Village, if you guys are familiar with it, called Hodges Bend. And so we started meeting there, and we had a series of meetings. I kind of joke that I've never drank so much in my life. We just would be there. He would not show me the church, but he said it was possibly for sale. And so finally we came to an agreement, and I purchased it sight unseen. I never had an opportunity to go in and look at it. And so we closed at Guarantee Abstract downtown. And as soon as we did that, we went over to the church and got to go inside, and it was a little shocking. I think it was my first case of buyer's remorse. And the church was flooded in the basement. It had been stripped of electricity and plumbing. There were holes in it. There were several dead carcasses, not human, but animals. And so, it was shocking. So went to bed that night, woke up the next day, and of course just started cleaning it up. And it really took a life of its own. I got so excited about the property, and I started interviewing people that recorded at the church during that time frame. So if you guys don't know, Leon Russell in 1972 was the #1 touring artist in America, according to Billboard magazine and Rolling Stone. And he decided to come back to his hometown, and he was just finishing his 4th album, Carney. He had the success of Mad Dogs and Englishmen with Joe Cocker in 1969. And of course, in 1971 with George Harrison, the concert for Bangladesh, which at the time was a real trailblazing concert that raised awareness for the atrocities that were happening in Bangladesh. And that was Eric Clapton and Bob Dylan and Badfinger and so many other people in Eric Clapton in that concert. And so Leon was very, very popular, but he wanted to come back to Tulsa. And he bought a series of properties. We were visiting about that earlier. A beautiful mansion, the McMahon Mansion in Maple Ridge. He bought the church studio. He was eating breakfast at the cafe across the street from the church when he discovered the for sale sign. Right now it's called the Freeway Cafe. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to Freeway. But back in the 70s, it was called the Ranch House, open 24/7. Leon called it the Roach House, but he saw that for sale sign. And so he purchased the church, and he basically turned it into the Abbey Road of America. So it was a recording studio and home office to Shelter Records. And probably the biggest artist to be discovered out of there was a young Tom Petty, later known as Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. But anyone in the music industry descended upon Tulsa during that time frame. And so Bonnie Raitt moved to Tulsa. Of course, I mentioned George Harrison. Eric Clapton, for almost 5 years, only worked with Tulsa musicians. And Kansas, Stevie Wonder, Michael Bolton, Willie Nelson recorded at the church for almost a year. Again, Bob Dylan, Phoebe Snow, of course, the Gap Band. Leon used them as his backup band. He plucked those kids out of a North Tulsa church. And a lot of people ask me about the Tulsa Sound, or you hear a lot of the musicians that were around during that time. A lot of controversy on what is the Tulsa Sound. Is it country? Is it rock? Is it a little gospel? It's probably a combination, but my good friend John Woolley, who was a writer for the Tulsa World and a great author, really describes it as a brotherhood. And I agree with that, because Leon was very, very entrepreneurial in the 70s for what he was trying to create at the church. And he wanted this creative workshop where singers and songwriters and musicians could come together in a very casual environment and make music, because Leon was always about the music. That's why so many people came to Tulsa and followed Leon, really famous artists, because they admired him so much. Leon came from the studios where they were a little more formal. You had the investors, the suits, he would call them, and then you had the audio engineers, which were more formal at that time. Some of them had lab coats and that sort of thing. So he wanted to do something very unique and different. And I stumbled upon a document that Leon he was interviewed by an architect and another group on his vision for the church studio and another studio he wanted to build. So it was kind of nice to get access to that document. One thing in particular is he wanted to put 2 subterranean echo chambers at the church. And the church does have a basement level. He was enamored by Les Paul's Capitol Records echo chambers, which are very famous, but he never got around to doing that. So it was 1972, he purchased the church, but he didn't really feel that welcome in Tulsa. Tulsa wasn't quite ready for that long-haired music. There was a lot of other things going on. Oral Roberts was having great success with the Mabee Center. And then we had Jim Halsey. I don't know if anyone knows Jim, but Jim was being very successful with his agency representing country music artists. And so Tulsa was a little more favorable to Jim. And so in 1976, Leon decided to leave Tulsa, but of course he left this legacy landmark. What's interesting is he sold it to the Indian Council for Drug Abuse and Addiction, and Wes Studi, an actor, was addicted to drugs at the time, but he got his acting lessons at the church after the Indian Council purchased it. So it's always been this creative place. Earlier on, I'm kind of all over the place. I mentioned that I started interviewing people. Well, I've conducted over 200 interviews now. One of my first goals when I purchased the church is to get it listed on the National Register of Historic Places, because I thought what was so unique, what Leon was doing, I thought it deserved it. And you guys may or may not know, but the Pearl District, where the church is located, is not a historic district. And so it was a little bit challenging to write a compelling story about why it should qualify. And again, even though the church was built in 1915, that doesn't qualify it. But what Leon Russell did, the magic that was created from 72 to 76, possibly would qualify it. So we submitted that to the State Preservation Office, and they agreed that it was significant. And then it goes to Washington, D.C. on a national level with National Park Service, and they reviewed it and they agreed. So the church is now a historic landmark listed on the National Register. And it was a little controversial at the time. There are other historic studios across America that are listed. There are 4 others like Motown, RCA Studio B, Capitol Records, and Muscle Shoals. But the church studio was the first property where the period of significance was from the 1970s. And so, in addition to interviewing the 2 shelter record secretaries and the audio engineers and the musicians, I also befriended the great grandson of the original pastor. And so the story of the church prior to Leon Russell is just as compelling. I learned that the church was Tulsa's first integrated church, which I found very fascinating. The church did not have an architect. It was built for the people, by the people. And a lot of the attendees of the church worked for the oil barons. So one of the rooms at the Harweldon Mansion, one of my other projects, we have a custom wallpaper, and I put a picture of the church studio on that wallpaper to tie it in, of course, to the oil industry. And if you guys ever get a chance, if you haven't been to the Harweldon, I'd love to give you a tour of that property. And of course, the church when we open as well. So the church just has a really neat history. And so my initial plan was just to clean it up, paint it, and maybe have a place to store my collection. But it took a life of its own. And I thought this has to come back to being a viable working recording studio. What I didn't want is another Motown where it's just a museum where things are hung on the wall. And even though I have some interesting things like Leon's canes, I have some of his clothes, I have a lot of his unreleased music and documents, but I've decided to create this recording studio, both analog and digital, and create this entertainment network, event center, part museum, and really just a community space. When Leon had the studio, you had to kind of know someone to get in the studio or be a gorgeous model looking type to get in. A lot of girls would hang out at the church with the artist. So I want it to be a destination studio. I want to compete with the Nashville and the California, primarily LA market, which are where the considered top studios are. And so again, I'm so excited about opening it up. We do have some great artists that we are working with. One of our things that we're planning on doing, of course, we'll rent it out to artists that want to record, but we'll also have our own programming. So Kenny Loggins will be one of our first shows in October. And they will be very intimate concerts of about 100 attendees, sort of a cocktail reception, meet and greet Kenny, and then have this very intimate performance in the sanctuary part of the church, which is also the recording studio. And we'll be doing those every other month. We're also working with the probably the top rock star photographer in the world. He's from the UK. He's starting his American World Tour with a photo exhibit at the church studio. And so we'll have that type of programming so the general community can engage with the studio. And of course, first and foremost, we want to honor the life and legacy of Leon Russell, but so many people today weren't fans of Leon, or they can't even list one of his songs, especially when you look at millennials and Gen Z. But it's really about the spirit of Leon, what he stood for. There's a lot of disruption on how people consume music. Even I haven't found one business model of a recording studio that makes money. So that's why I'm excited about going into uncharted territory with this business model and doing something a little more unique than what any of the other recording studios are doing. And I'm just really excited about that. We'll also offer historic tours. I have a group of volunteers, and we'll continue to develop and nurture a volunteer program, primarily docents. And we'll have various exhibits that get through there. And again, to educate people about what Leon did, about the music making process, but we want it relevant to today's artists and today's fans. And so they can take something away from the church and use it in their everyday lives. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And it's exciting to be able to share with each of you. And if anyone has any questions, I'd love to just talk about that.
Okay, Teresa, we do have a couple of questions. This is Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Jim Milburn wanted to know when Leon opened his Grand Lake studio. His best guess was 1976.
It was at the end of 1972 on the Grand Lake studio. And so he did everything close to the same time. If you get an opportunity to see the film A Poem as a Naked Person, it features the Grand Lake studio. And you can see they have a lot of B-roll footage of downtown Tulsa. And currently, Dr. Rick Husky, a local chiropractor who's also a big Leon Russell fan, owns the studio. And he's really gracious about letting people tour the studio, but that also was 1972.
Okay, 72, so a little earlier than what you thought, Jim. Cole Adamson put in, and I agree with this, it would really be a great off-site meeting to come do a survey and see more what we're doing down there. Jesse Poole wants to know, did you interview any members of the Gap band about their experience as the house band?
I haven't yet. However, I'm in communication with Charlie Wilson. He's been really nice and supportive, and he has a lot of great memories. When you read interviews with Charlie, he always gives a big shout out to Leon Russell. He and his brothers had some legal with each other, and of course, Ronnie has since passed away. But he is on my list of someone to interview. He's very popular right now. He's working with Denzel Washington. He has a new Grammy this past year. He lives in California, but he has an amazing story. Of course, after working with Leon, the Gap Band had their own stardom and did so well. And then he got into trouble. He lost all of his fortune. He became a heroin addict and was basically homeless. But he got out of that situation and he's back on top again. So it's an amazing story. So I hope we can do that. If you guys get an opportunity, we're developing our YouTube channel, and we have a series of our interviews that I'm putting out there, and I'm calling them Church Studio Legends. But if you go to youtube.com/The Church Studio, you can access a lot of those interviews that I've conducted. And they're really fascinating, but hopefully in the near future, Charlie will be on there.
Very good, thank you. That's a lot of information. Joy wants to know if Tulsa is currently nurturing any really good musicians, or is all of that happening in LA and Nashville?
I think we're really trying. We want to learn by the past. So many great artists have come out of here. Probably the most significant artist currently is a man by the name of Ryan Tedder with the group One Republic. He actually attended ORU as well. And he's one of the biggest stars in the world. He just finished a big project with Paul McCartney. But there's an office, it's a division of the Tulsa Chamber called the Tulsa Film, Music, Arts, and Culture Office. And they're doing so many things to try to support local musicians. But a lot of musicians, they feel like they have to go out of this marketplace. So I think the church studio will play an important role in letting them know that, if they don't want to record, so many people can record in their home, in their basement or their bedroom, but the artists that want to take it to the next level, they do feel like they need to go out of town to record or to get noticed. And I think there's a lot of things happening to let our local artists know that, we do have an infrastructure here that can help you, because it's very different than during Leon's time, where you had to have a whole album put together. People put out songs, but they have to be entrepreneurs as well. I've had a lot of young artists reach out, and the first question is like, I'm really great, I practice all the time, do you have any free opportunities? And they just, they have to realize that they have to work on their personal branding. And I mean, that's just the way it is. The record labels won't even look at you unless you have so many followers on your YouTube channel and on your social media channels. So they have to do their part as well. And hopefully we can be a part of educating them on that process.
Certainly is different. Just for grins, who have been some of your favorite interviews?
Let's see. Probably one of my favorites, he actually lives locally, is Dwight Twilley. And Dwight is fantastic. So Dwight recorded a big hit out of the church in 1974. But what's funny is Leon wasn't part of that, what you could consider that Tulsa sound group, that sound that Eric Clapton captured. And of course you have Jimmy Markham, David Teagard, Bob Seger recorded. But he had this more what they call a power pop sound. So he said, I'm not going to record with Leon at the church. We're going to California. So he actually stumbled upon several record labels, including Capitol Records at the time. And they were working with Shelter Records, but they said, we have the perfect label for you. It's called Shelter Records. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he could not believe it. They sent him back to Tulsa. They didn't even, look at his background. And so he talks about how it's funny, he did everything in his power to get away from Tulsa, not be associated with that Tulsa sound, but he cut his hit record at the church with Leon Russell, which is really neat. But he's just a really neat guy. Jamie Oldacre is another favorite. Jamie started with Leon, but of course met Eric Clapton, and the rest is history on that. And so I love those two in particular because they both experienced international stardom, but give so much credit to Leon Russell and their roots in Tulsa.
This is a personal question in my own mind. When I think about Leon Russell, I really can't think him without talking or thinking about Willie Nelson. Did you ever get to talk to him, or what was the relationship there from your perspective?
Yeah, so Leon Russell and Willie Nelson were very, very close. Willie and his sister recorded at the church for nearly a year. And so there's a lot of recordings of them two together in the church. So we're really excited. We have a project honoring the legacy of Willie, especially during that period of significance. I haven't had a chance to interview Willie. I have visited with his manager, a female. And so, again, he's on our wish list. I think a lot of the artists that are still around, and I want to get him as soon as possible. They're kind of waiting to see what the church is going to look like. And if we're able to follow through with what we're saying we are going to do with the church. So I'm very anxious to open up to Willie is, along with Charlie Wilson, are so important because he's a legacy artist. He's very significant. And it's very important that for archival purposes, but also for our own content that we're curating. And ultimately, we're doing a significant film about the church, the history, the restoration, and what Leon Russell contributed to music.
All right, thank you very much. Ellie, are you trying to enter a question? Unmute, please.
There we go. We were going to ask, and we might have missed it. Did you say when the church is expected to be finished?
We should be finished in July.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yep. So that will be here before you know it. So, invite the entire group. I would love to give you guys the tour. If you guys want to have an ad hoc meeting or one of your meetings there when you're meeting in person, I'd love to extend an invitation for you guys to see the church and spend some time in there.
Well, don't be surprised if we take you up on that. I don't see any other questions out there. Anybody else just to speak up? Oh, there, Joy Andrzejczyk, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Teresa. Appreciate what you're doing with Tulsa, sort of bringing us back to some of our former glories and hopefully our future glories. But, you know, curiously, I know that we landed the Bob Dylan archives and so forth and wondered, are you aware of, are you working on any synchronization between Bob Dylan, you know, fans and so forth, that, you know, it becomes something like, oh, by the way, because usually people who are into music are not just one person. So they're looking at a whole, all the artists in a time or whatever. Is there something going on between your efforts and the Bob Dylan archives?
Yeah, so we've been in communication. As you are aware, GKFF, you know, purchased one of his archives, and that is going to be housed in the building that the Woody Guthrie Center is in. And Bob Dylan considered Woody as one of his mentors. And so I think that's very, very significant. And Nashville has done a really great job with their museums. Like when you look at the Johnny Cash Museum and the other museums that they have in town, where there's a consortium where if you go to one, if you have a ticket, you can go to the other. And with the Bob Dylan archive and then OK Pop across from the historic Cain's Ballroom and the church studio, I think there's such an opportunity because OK Pop in particular has a really interesting Leon Russell collection. It's very different than mine. Mine is more from a fan perspective. But Leon and Bob Dylan got to know each other in 1971 at the Concert for Bangladesh. They were both worked with George Harrison on that. And what's really fascinating about that relationship is prior to that time, Leon was very flashy. He had the top hat. One of the outfits we have is a nudie suit. If you've ever heard of those, probably Porter Wagner, think about his rhinestone suits, and that's what a nudie suit is. Leon had one, or he had multiple. But when he met Bob Dylan was looking, when Bob was looking for a new sound, he reached out to one person. He reached out to Leon Russell. They went to New York. They wrote, they recorded together. And then during the filming of A Poem as a Naked Person, I talked about earlier of Grand Lake, Bob Dylan was there during the whole time. He's not in the film, but he's in the outtakes. And so he was really infatuated with Leon and Leon with him. So you see Bob adopting some of Leon's musical traits, and then you see Leon starting to become more casual. You see that year that he switches to a denim jacket, more leather sandals. I mean, he really changes his look. And Dylan was in Tulsa a lot. But what's interesting, I just assumed that's why the George Kaiser Family Foundation acquired the archive was Dylan's time in Tulsa. But from my understanding, when George was attending school at Harvard, he went to a local place where Bob performed. I'm not involved with that at all, so I don't know the story behind it, but I'm really hoping we can collaborate. It's the 50th anniversary of the Concert for Bangladesh, so we've communicated on how I have some things related to Leon and Bob. Of course, they have a big Bob collection, on how when they open in 2022, that people can enjoy the connection of Leon and Bob at the church, but then also go to the Bob Dylan Center. So I hope we can see more of that. Tulsa historically has worked more, individual locations have done their own thing. But I think that if we really want to be a tourist attraction, and so many people want that pushed by the Chamber of Commerce, that I hope there's more collaboration than what we've seen in the past. That was a long answer, sorry.
Okay, one more question, Don, and then we need to close it out.
Okay. As a wannabe musician, I've sang in some really great places where the acoustics were awesome. By any chance, does the church studio have great acoustics?
Yes. So historically, churches have great acoustics. But we have two consultants, both out of Nashville. My main one is a gentleman by the name of Chad Haley. He's Neil Young's engineer and was actually trained by J.J. Kell when he was 15 when J.J. went to Nashville. And they don't like the name world class, but they're fantastic. We have kind of a saying at the church during the renovation, glue it or screw it. There's not one nail in the church. And the way we've spent so much time, energy, and investment in the church to make sure that it captures the sound and it's acoustically fantastic. And so I think when you go in, especially with your background, you're going to recognize those acoustics. And again, it's been top priority. So acoustics, and of course, we're setting up the space for high def video because you can't really capture music these days without capturing really fantastic video. But afterwards, when the church is done and it's cured and we're in there, we are capturing the acoustics in the live room and in the reverberation in the subterranean echo chambers so that young people from all over the world can purchase a church studio plugin in the software, which is called Pro Tools. So they can capture that church studio sound. So someday when they travel and they think, I want to record at a historic recording studio or the best recording studio, they'll think of the church studio in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Teresa. I want to close by echoing Linda Ortega. She speaks for all of us when she says, thank you so much for all you are doing to highlight Leon and all our Tulsa music history. Thank you. Barbara?
Yeah, thank you, Teresa. That's been, we have such a rich history of music here, and I don't think we all appreciate it the way we should. So being older, I grew up listening to all that music, and Leon was in the neighborhood. So that's really very cool. And if anybody's not been to Harweldon, if you go through there, they have some amazing, I don't know who the artist was, but your paintings that are on the wall of Leon's hats and stuff. I mean, that's just.
P.S. Gordon.
Was it Pat? Okay. I wondered, but I didn't go up close enough to look. So they're amazing. It's just, and I didn't know the connection when I was there for the tea. I didn't realize the connection between Harweldon and the church studio. So thank you so much for being our speaker today. We've all enjoyed it tremendously. As a thank you for you speaking to us, we will make a donation in your name to Rotary International to our End Polio Now program. So we can't give you a coffee cup, but we will make a donation in your name. So again, thank you. If anybody has anything else that they would like to announce or say, please let me know. Otherwise, we've got board meeting on Tuesday night at the Marriott in person and in Zoom. And I believe that District Governor may attend that. I'm not positive yet, but I think he probably will. And then the 14th, we will start our in-person and Zoom meetings at the Marriott. And again, on the 21st, then Craig will attend our 21st meeting. So thank you all. Thank you again, Teresa. It's been a great presentation. So thank you.
Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter. Exactly right. See y'all next week. Bye.